Hey, my creative friends. Shannon Christensen here from Shannon's Studio. And I'm sorry, sometimes I sigh, just take a deep breath to try to get air and oxygen, and sometimes it comes out as a sigh, so I'm not sorry to be here. It's just sometimes I might sigh like it sounds like I'm sorry to be here. So here to talk about creativity, to talk about how we create our lives in order to actually be able to make things and take action. So yesterday I talked about why to have a moral compass, what a moral compass look like, and why we should have one. And so today we're going to talk about how do we have a moral compass. And this, to me, having a moral compass really takes care of a lot of external problems. When we're out of alignment with ourselves, when we don't have our behavior match up with our beliefs, then we start to get frustrated. We can get confused about what we're doing. We can just feel out of whack. We can there can be conflict and anxiety over that conflict, and upset, depression, those kinds of things. And when we're in those kinds of states, it doesn't make creativity easy. We can still be creative, we can still sit down and do it, but it's not as easy of a flow as that. And so I wanted to talk about how we do that. And I remember Benjamin Franklin. He is one who talked about virtues, and he went about, he never called it a moral compass, but I think he was he was building his moral values, and he called them virtues. And a lot of times we do interchange those words, values and virtues. But I'm going to read a couple things from him to be able to share what his thoughts were. So he said, in his notes, he said, "My intention being to acquire the habitude of all these virtues. Judged it would be well not to distract my attention by attempting the whole at once, but fix it on one of them at a time. And when I should be master of that, then proceed to another, and so on till I should have gone through the 13. So he picked 13 virtues and decided to work on them. So he said, I made a little book in which I allotted, and first off, I made a little book in which I allotted a page for each virtue. I made a little book. Does that sound familiar to you with your little idea book? He put in his book, he put the 13 virtues, he put little columns, and, did a little section. And so he would spend that time, and he would record daily if he, marking every evening the faults of the day. So he would, at the end of the day, evaluate how his behavior was and mark any black dots for behavior that he didn't find fit the virtues he was working on. And I just thought, if everybody evaluated like that, and maybe we do loosely evaluate our behavior, but if we were more intentional, like Benjamin Franklin, and if we worked deliberately, I think we would see some changes in our own personal life from doing so. So that's why I'm going to go through talking about how do we build a moral compass, because I think we all have one. I mean, we really do. We might not be aware of it. We might not have it not have it written down, not have it crystallized in our own mind. So I'm going to go through steps I think could get you and get me to where I feel, or you feel solid about our moral compass. So the first off, like I said, what I see is in the core is what we believe. So in order to find out what you believe, you can go through some questions. And most of these are just like little questions, little thoughts, or a little exercise. So for belief is the core, is I believe, and then write down what you believe. So I believe this. Or my opinion about fill in the blank is. So my opinion about, hey Trisha, I just saw you popped on there. My opinion about blank is this. And where do I find meaning? And write it down. And my heart tells me what? So if you start to write down those things and kind of free write some thoughts, you'll start to come up with some beliefs. And then go on to the values. What are those beliefs? What are the values associated with those beliefs? You believe certain things, so what value do you have to have? What character trait do you have to have in order to have those beliefs? And so then you go through that, and then you can ask, what principles do I think are of value, are of real worth? What to add to it, that things that I want to be, or things that I see that are valuable that I haven't really thought about. You can also deconstruct a blessing or something that you think is valid and deconstruct it backwards. So like say honesty. If I want honesty, then I have to deconstructing it backwards. That's somebody who tells the truth, who doesn't lie, who doesn't tell half-truths, who doesn't exaggerate, who doesn't take things without compensation, who doesn't do these things. And so therefore my value would be, I'm not going to lie, I'm not going to exaggerate, those are values that you would attach to that. So, and then also, what value, what thing are you willing to stand up for? If everybody else in the room was telling their values and virtues, what would you stand up and say yours were? What would you say? I believe in this. This is the value I espouse, or values I espouse. So that's how kind of an idea of how to get to your values. Then your morals. The morals are taking the beliefs and the values and then separating them. And a lot of people say right and wrong and good and bad. And I don't think I've ever really liked those words. For me, I've always said to the kids, that's appropriate or inappropriate. And that is, that's an action we can do, and that's an action we can't do. So I think putting it in that context for morals is, because morals is the rules of conduct, how you're going to conduct yourself. And so to say something is appropriate works, and what's not appropriate. So you kind of line that out, and it's like, there are some things that I always see this is bad, or I always see this is good. That can be in your rules of conduct. That can be in your morals. What else? How do I feel about certain things? Is this good? Is this bad? Under what circumstance? Morals, let's just say kissing. I would always tell, my kids would always ask me, when is a good time to kiss? When do you start kissing? And I was like, man, that's a hard question to answer for a kid. But for me, it's not like, well, for kids when they're younger, I would say it's inappropriate. But when they start to be older teenagers, it's kind of, the circumstance they have to kind of determine themselves. They have to kind of come up with their own morals. But I would always tell them, kissing is really fun. And the longer you can put it off, the better, because kissing just goes forward into other physical intimacies. And so I would say, just put it off as long as you can. Because my compass doesn't say kissing is bad. My morals say kissing is for relationships that are courtship leading into marriage, to serious relationships. So that's where I would get some of my ideas when I was trying to help my kids. Okay, so we've gone through beliefs, how to look at our beliefs, our values, our morals. Now we look at our intentions. And we kind of look at, where am I today on these values, on my rules of conduct, on where am I today? And then where do I want to be with these? And I think that's where Benjamin Franklin was he's looking at himself, and this is where I am. This is what I want to be. These are my intentions and the rules I want to follow to get to these intentions. And so, morals. Rules of conduct are the ethics. I kind of messed that up a little bit. Morals are what you see as appropriate and inappropriate. Intentions are, what do I want to be? What am I now? Where do I see myself going? And then ethics is the rules of conduct. So kind of erase that little part. Rules of conduct. So that's the ethics. That's where you say, this is how I'm going to do this. This is how I'm going to make my actions follow along to get to where I want to go. So that's where Benjamin Franklin was. That's where he was with his little book. You have a little book. I have a little book. We have a moral compass. And do we want to be more deliberate in what we do? To me, like I said, I think we become happier. We become more settled in raising a family. Having a moral compass, to me, was such a strength. Because then, like with the kissing thing, then I could answer questions according to what I really believe. And I could, like I said yesterday, you frame your behavior, you frame things within this moral compass that you've created, that you've decided deliberately that you think is important. You're not taking everybody else's ideas. And people do parent that way. They just like, what do you do? You know, and they're not doing it to gain information, to help with their beliefs. They're looking at it to tell me what to do. So there's asking a question is not the problem. It's when you don't have a moral compass to guide you and you're looking for other people to tell you what the moral compass should be. And when you operate from that place as the parent, it makes your life much more difficult. And all these creativity tips and everything and mind shift ideas are so that you can feel in a more confident place in order to start to feed yourself being creative. And let's face it, coming up with creating a moral compass, that's one of the most creative type works you can do when you create your own life, when you create your own internal being. That's creativity in its most I want to say divine form. Maybe that's not the right word, but man, it's up there. It is up there with some of the higher things that we will do in life. I mean, I'm all for making little crafts and art projects and stuff like that, but when I can make my life and create the life I want, that is up on a higher level. And so even though it might not seem like creativity per se, when we can start to create the person we want to be and the life we want to have, then we open ourselves up to creativity at large, that we can do all kinds of things. So let's see. When we align our behavior and our belief, and we bring those two right in line, then that value becomes a virtue. It becomes something that becomes part of us. And we can pick whatever we want. I think for me, one of my values that I didn't realize until I was doing this was creativity. I believe in creativity to the extent where I have some actions that I feel are part of that. And so your moral compass can be anything you decide it's going to be. You have that freedom and you have that creativity to be able to decide. And I think using your little idea book to kind of be deliberate and put it in there. I don't know how long ago was Benjamin Franklin, but we're looking at his book tonight. We're talking about his book tonight and the effect that he can have and the example he was in his determination to further strengthen the virtues in his own life. So you don't know who might be looking at your little idea book later on down the road and say, hey, Auntie was determined to be a different type of person. Or Mom, great-grandma, was, really caring about how she treated people and how she looked at the world. I just think it's a great thing. So that's why I wanted to spend another day on it to talk about, because sometimes it's great to say, oh, you should do this, but if you don't tell people how, or we don't share ideas how, then sometimes it's just really kind of leaves people stuck. It leaves us stuck where we are. And I don't want to be stuck where I am. I like where I am, but I don't want to be stuck there. Would you put in the comments ideas that you think would be good in drawing out our moral compass, or drawing out ideas that would lead us to be more solidified in nailing down that and creating a moral compass? So again, share your thoughts, and remember, you have a creative heartbeat, so listen for it. Write in your little idea books. If you've been writing in your idea books, some of you have shared, but if you've been writing in them, share on the comments, or if you don't want to share publicly, then share with me privately. Some people have done that. And so I can see, I get so excited when I get to see some of the things that you're doing. And it kind of feeds me and strengthens me. So I will see you tomorrow with more ideas.